Hello everyone, and welcome back to Dad to Dad. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been in a situation where you followed all the rules, did everything right, and still you ended up being treated like the villain? Like somehow, no matter how calmly or respectfully you handled things, you were still blamed, still criticized, still attacked. It's one of the most frustrating feelings a person can ever go through, especially when you're trying to do your best to protect not just yourself, but your child. You're steady, respectful, focused, and still you're met with resistance. Still, someone tries to push you off your path. Today, I want to talk about something that's deeply personal, something emotional, something I believe every parent, especially every father, needs to hear. Are you the aggressor or are you the protector? Because how we handle pressure, how we respond when we're tested, says more about you or says more about who you are than any words ever could. And let me be clear, I'm not just speaking to men here. This message is from others too. Because whether you're parenting together, parenting apart, or somewhere in between, your actions, along with your behavior, becomes the blueprint your child will use to build their emotional foundation. And it matters more than most of us sometimes actually realize. So let's talk about it. Let's reflect. Let's get back to real about what it means to lead. But before we get into it, if this kind of message resonates with you, if you're working every day to be a better parent, a better man, or just be a more present version of yourself, I really appreciate it if you take a second to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It's free, it helps the message reach more people, and it means a lot as we can keep building this space for strong, steady, intentional fathers. All right, let's get into it. Then have a renewed commitment to being calm, steady, and a protective presence regardless of what others do around you. Because we're not just raising kids, we're raising future adults, future partners, and future leaders. And they're learning from what we do. So let me tell you a true story. One day I'm out driving, regular day, nothing out of the ordinary. Speed limit's 35, so I'm doing 35, more or less. Up ahead is a red light, and I need to make a right turn. So I do what I'm supposed to. I cut my signal on, I slow down gradually so I can ease into the turn. But in my rearview mirror, I see another car flying up behind me. No patience, riding my bumper inches from the back of my bumper. Extremely aggressive. Even though the lane next to me is wide open, they still don't switch. They just stay right there, pushing up on me like the frustration should dictate how I should drive. And as I make my turn, safely, legally, mind you, still at a red light, they honk, whip around me, and flip me off. Now think about it. I'm doing everything right. Everything I'm supposed to be doing, and yet to them, I'm still in the way. That's a metaphor for life, because sometimes following the rules, you're showing up, you're doing the work, you're respecting boundaries, and someone still treats you like the problem. Does that sound familiar? This happens in co-parenting too. You follow the plan, you respect the schedule, you focus on your child, and then, potentially, the other parent makes their own plans on your time without asking, without checking in. And when you say no, suddenly you become the problem. And that kind of treatment makes you want to snap, makes you want to explain, defend, and prove your point. But here's the thing. Standing your ground isn't the problem. Being steady isn't weak. Protecting your peace, especially when it protects your child, isn't aggression. There's a difference between being aggressive and being intentional. There's a difference between lashing out and leading. Let's run that same driving story back. But now, let's add an extra added element to it. Scenario 1. There's no cop around. No cameras, no witness. If that car goes up the street and causes an accident up the road, they could potentially say that you were the one who caused it. You were the one at fault. Might spin it in their way, and now it's your word against theirs, especially if you're not present. But let's say in scenario 2, there's a police officer nearby. They see it all. They see my safe driving, and they see the reckless behavior that the other person is actually doing. Now the truth is undeniable. Sometimes that's what co-parenting feels like, with or without a witness. Of course, I don't necessarily mean a witness in a literal sense. Sometimes there's no referee, there's no neutral voice, no cameras, just two parents trying to parent. And without clarity, without boundaries and proof, things can get twisted. That's why documentation matters. That's why calm communication matters. And that's why showing up matters, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Now, I want to pause here for a second and ask you a serious question. Who are you? When pressure hits, who do you become? Are you the aggressor or are you the protector? Because when it comes down to it, your actions aren't just yours. They echo. They echo into our home. They echo into your relationship, your child's understanding of love, respect, and safety. Now ask yourself, am I leading with calm? Am I holding firm but respectful boundaries? Am I fueling peace or feeding chaos? And listen, this isn't about shame. This is about honesty. I've seen both sides. I've had my moments where I almost lost my cool. Moments where I looked back and thought, that's not how I wanted to handle that. Whether good or bad on my part. But the power is the reflection. The power is in the pause. So here's what I want you to do. And this is going to be a pause the video moment, so prepare yourself. Right now, if you need to, grab a pen, piece of paper, or you can open your notes app up on your phone. Write down a moment when your child saw you under pressure. What did they see? What do you believe that they learned from that situation? Once you have that, come back because I have a few more questions to follow up. Take a couple seconds. All right. So now that you have that ready, now that you've answered your own questions, I need you to ask yourself something. If my child grew up to model that behavior, would I be proud? Would I want my son to act that way in front of his kids? Would I want my daughter to accept that energy from someone else? More importantly, would I want my child to date someone who treated their partner or their ex-partner like I treat mine? Because here's the reality. Your kids are learning not just from what you teach them, but from what you show them. And they remember more than you think. More than you ever think that they would remember. And they remember more than you think. They remember how you raised your voice. They remember how you looked when you were angry. They remember how you held your tongue. They remember when you tried. So ask yourself, are you giving them something worth repeating or accepting? And let's take it one level deeper, just a tad bit deeper. Have you ever made your child feel like they had to choose sides? And be honest. It may not have been intentional, but if you've ever vented too loud, said something passive, said something sharp about their other parent, even if you felt as though it was justified, ask yourself what your child absorbed in that moment. Because your children are mirrors and they're sponges. And they're learning what love looks like by watching you. So are you showing them? What version of love are you imprinting? Is it secure? Is it peaceful? Is it respectful? Or is it volatile, unpredictable, and conditional? I want to speak directly to fathers for a moment. We're expected to lead, but nobody ever really teaches us how to lead emotionally. We're told to be providers. We're told to be strong. But the greatest strength I've ever seen in a man was when he chose to stay calm in a storm that wanted to end him, that wanted to break him down to his very core. Your strength doesn't come from your volume. It comes from your restraint, your presence, and your willingness to be a steady force. And for mothers listening, your role is just as vital. If either of you are using your children to punish your co-parent, if you're planting seeds of conflict through manipulation, I urge you to stop. Not because the other parent might deserve it, but more so because your child does. Respect, stability, and love should never come at the cost of your child's emotional safety. I know this message might be heavy. I know it might be something that stirs something up in some of you. But if you're feeling that discomfort because you view some of these as your symptoms, sit in that. Let it move you and let it change you. I beg of you. Because what we model, our kids multiply. And what we fail to heal, they often inherit. So let's do better. Let's be better. Not perfect, but present. Let's lead with intention. Let's protect without punishing. And let's correct without crushing. Let's build something better. For those of you who have made it through this entire video, I thank you so much for watching and being part of this growing community. If this message spoke to you, if it moved you in some kind of way, please like and subscribe so we can keep growing this space of strength, growth, and presence. Until next time, stay steady, stay focused, stay strong, and remember, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be present. I'll see you on the next one.